Talking about a revolution sounds. Don't you know? Talking about a revolution, it sounds like a whisper. While they're standing in the welfare lines, crying the doorsteps of those armies of salvation, wasting time in the unemployment lines, sitting around waiting for a promotion. Don't you know? Talking about a revolution sounds. Who are people gonna rise up and get their share? Who are people gonna rise up? Take what's there. Don't you know you better run, 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 run. Oh, I said you better run, 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 run. Cause finally the tables are starting to turn. Cause finally the tables are starting to turn. Cause finally the tables are starting to turn. Cause finally the tables are starting.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is Thursday, the 18th day of September. The year is 2014. And if you can hear the sound of my voice more than ever, you are the revolution. My name is Smokin' Joe McHale, and this is the Revolutionary Nightly News, smashing through the lies of the New World Order government, bringing you a different perspective, and that is the true perspective. Today's a heavy day, because just 5 minutes from my house here in Sydney there have been terror raids, and the whole of Australia is being swept up in this fear, in this panic that these boogeymen are out to get them, totally oblivious to the fact that the government in America funds ISIS, that they have been engineering this clash of civilizations for years and decades. Every day I do my best to come here and expose the truth as cogently, as eloquently, as passionately as I can. And I know that more people are waking up every day, but in the face of this latest propaganda blitz by the government, more and more people are giving in to fear. More and more people are giving in to tribalism. More and more people are wanting to exert violence. Oh, they're wanting the government to exert violence on their behalf against these boogeymen who are out to get them. But they're missing the main point. The whole story is that the government is engineering this war between the West and Islam to tear society apart and bring in their one world government. They're making such progress on this, and I'm going to read these stories about what's happening in Australia today, what's happened. But before I do that, I'd like to read this quote by Cicero. He gave this speech to the Roman Senate. Part of this was in the speech, and it's very relevant today. A nation can survive its fools and even the ambitious, but it cannot survive treason from within. An enemy at the gates is less formidable, for he is known and carries his banner openly. But the traitor moves amongst those within the gate freely, his sly whispers rustling through all the alleys, heard in the very halls of government itself. For the traitor appears not a traitor. He speaks in accents familiar to his victims, and he wears their face and their arguments. He appeals to the baseness that lies deep in the hearts of all men. He rots the soul of a nation. He works secretly and unknown in the night to undermine the pillars of the city. He infects the body politic so that it can no longer resist itself. A murderer is less to fear. The traitor is the plague. And here you have government calling out these Muslims, saying they're going to commit these horrible acts, when for how many years and how many decades now, millions of men, women and innocent children have been killed all over the Middle East and all over the world in these unjust wars based on false flag attacks. Why don't you stand up for the innocent? If you fall into this trap and think we have to go after ISIS so badly, you know, social media has really, in a way, disheartened me today. And it's been difficult to even build up the courage within myself to come on and make this recording today. But I know that I have to move forward and stand strong in the face of tyranny. Despite, I think, the fact that I think today's message won't be received very well at all in comparison to a bunch of my other messages, because the overwhelming sentiment on Facebook is, we got to kill those Muslims, those dirty Muslims. Oh. People who are good people are falling hook, line and sinker for the government propaganda, and it really concerns me. I do my best every day, like I said, to come here and put forward this information eloquently, but sometimes it does make it incredibly draining to keep putting this forward and to have people, some people came out and attacked me. Earlier on today I posted this image, putting Tony Abbott side by side with Hitler and paraphrasing in a way a very famous poem saying, first they came for the bikies and I stood up for them, even though I don't ride a motorcycle. Then they came for the Muslims and I stood up for them, even though I'm not a Muslim. But if we don't fight against the New World Order, soon they're going to come for you and they're going to come for me. And there's going to be no one left to stand up for any of us. So I have steeled myself. I have said I'm going to keep putting this out. It's not going to worry me, the nasty things people were saying about me, calling me a conspiracy theorist, saying that I should stick to DJing. I don't care. Look, I'm doing the right thing and I will be judged. Everything I'm talking about is based on documented facts, documented research, and I just ask you to go out and do the research for yourself. Find out that what I'm saying is true. Don't fall victim to this propaganda, because we will be in a situation worse than when Hitler was around. History is repeating itself. I urge you not to fall victim to hate, to see who's really pulling the strings. I'm going to read these articles briefly. From Yahoo News, beheading plot failed. Claims terror accused plotted to snatch random person off Sydney street. Exclusive sickening allegations have emerged about a Sydney man arrested and charged during the biggest counter-terror raids in Australia's history. 7 News reporter Robert O'Vardia has received information about an alleged plot to kidnap the random person from the streets of Martin Place in Sydney's CBD, execute them by beheading. The alleged intention was to film the act and then post it to social media, with the victim's body draped in an Islamic State flag. The extent of this plot, whether that is just this individual put before the court this morning or whether it includes some of the other 15 arrested this morning, remains to be seen. As Andrew Scipione said, you would have to be extraordinarily unlucky to be that person, but the whole idea of terrorizing people is to make people think they could be a victim. Doesn't that succinctly say what government is doing? Let me read the police commissioner's statement once again. The whole idea of terrorizing people is to make people think they could be a victim. And that's exactly what's happening all across Australia right now as people are tuning into the news. And the government is pumping them so full of fear that somewhere near where you live, I used to work on Martin Place, these raids happened in Wentworthville and Guildford, 5 minutes that way and 5 minutes that way. This is real. They want people to think that there is a boogeyman coming to get them, and that is what the real terrorism is. Don't you understand how many people these fake wars have killed in Iraq and Afghanistan and all over the world? And then if there's one supposed threat All we have is the cop's word that this supposed dude made a threat to behead someone when they are guilty of bombing and killing millions. See through the lies. See through the propaganda. Understand that you're being manipulated. From the dailymail.co.uk, kill Christians, slaughter their children, thugs waving Islamic State flags threaten churchgoers in Sydney. Hoons shouted out threats to kill Christians and waved an Islamic State flag as they drove past a Maronite church and school in Sydney's west, terrifying members of the community. New South Wales police are investigating the incident at the Our Lady of Lebanon Church and the Maronite College of the Holy Family in Harris Park in Sydney's west on Tuesday. It is alleged a youth in a passing red hatchback yelled out, "We're going to kill all you Christians." And sure, there are people who really don't want to kill Christians. But the basic tenet of what I'm saying is that the US government funds Al-Qaeda. They fund ISIS so that they can spread terror all over the world. They are acting as agents of the government. And then the government can come on the other side, spend billions of dollars of your tax money in anti-terrorism and in war. Sure, there are people who are going to buy into this, because think of all the millions who are killed in Afghanistan and Iraq, all over the Middle East. After a certain time, people are going to get radicalized, and people are going to fall prey to the radical Islamic ideology. That's their whole idea. They want people to hate the West. They want people in the West to hate Islam. It is a clash of civilizations that is being engineered. And Queensland as well. From The Australian, Queensland suspect was contemplating terrorist action. A man arrested by Queensland police was allegedly planning a terrorist attack on home soil. Police conducted raids last week in the Brisbane area, arresting 2 men who were accused of funding and recruiting for Islamic State in Iraq and Jabhat al-Nusra in Syria. And what's really the most disturbing thing is to see people I know all over social media falling for this hook, line and sinker and saying, we have to take these guys. I really thought about, quoting some of these people anonymously, of course, and, saying exactly what they said, that these Muslims should be shot, they should be exterminated. Someone said they should be rounded up in concentration camps. This is exactly what people have said. But I'm not going to read that. For one example, this man wasn't arrested. He just was at the house where one of these raids took place. One man who was at one of the raided properties when police arrived claims to have been punched by an officer. Maywand Osman, who was detained during the raids at Waterloo Road in Marsfield but not arrested, said, "I opened this door this morning at 4:45 a.m. to about 4 police officers. They asked me to raise my hands. I immediately raised my hands. 4 officers then jumped at me and one punched me in the face. They threw me on the ground and started hitting me in the head and pulling my hair. One officer grabbed me by the hair and said, 'You piece of shit.' While they were beating me, I heard one officer say, 'Just don't make him bleed.' They then went inside my house to conduct a search. They found nothing in my house and I was not under arrest or in custody at any point in time." A statement released by Mr. Osman's solicitor said, "My client was brutally attacked by 4 police officers this morning without provocation. He sustained injuries to the face and head. He was escorted to the hospital by ambulance." Commissioner Colvin said he was personally not aware of the claims. Of course, the police have a massive history of beating people up, then corroborating in their statements that they don't do it. I've been on the end of police beatings before, and they are really cowardly. And police who do that, I'm going to say it right now, they're the real terrorists. That's terrorizing people. This guy who's done nothing was beaten up for no reason. And then, this is another thing that was disheartening to me today. Someone put up a picture of this particular guy, and everyone, despite the fact that he wasn't charged or anything like that, everyone was saying how he deserved it. People were saying, "I wish I was there. I would have smashed him as well. I wish I was the cop. I would have killed him." This disgusting stuff. And when I hear that kind of stuff, it makes me think, how are we going to win this? I feel like I'm in Germany in the times of Hitler, and everyone is in this patriotic fervour to go and take out the Jews, and I'm trying to stop them. And this is what's happening. It's a patriotic fervour to take out the Muslims when the West funds radical Islam. But the fact that you are tuning into this transmission gives me hope and gives me strength. And you know what? I'm not going to stop. I'm going to keep fighting. In the hope, in the faith, because I do have faith in humanity, in the faith that we will be able to turn this around. And enough people can see through the lies. How many people out there have courage? Do you have courage? The thing is, we're under attack. The government wants you to believe that you're under attack from Muslims. So they want you to defer your self-preservation instinct to the government. They want you to allow the government to go to war on your behalf and to raid these people on your behalf. It's not standing up for yourself. People would much rather do that because they're cowards, instead of understanding that the enemy is the government who funds both sides of conflict worldwide. When you realize that the government's the enemy, you have to take the courage to stand up and fight them yourself. And let me tell you, you're going to be in the minority. Like I said, I've had people say a lot of things, and I can tell that through the reactions that I've had on social media that there are very few people who agree with what I'm saying. Very few people who will even look into what I'm saying or research it. And that's disheartening. But I will never give up. I will keep fighting. And there may come a day when they knock on my door and take me away. But to quote Tupac, I would rather die like a man than live like a coward. I'm not going to allow someone else to dictate hate and injustice and tyranny towards me when me, as a free, sovereign human being, I can rally others for freedom. The US runs ISIS. I've made this point ad nauseum. The information is all over in the public domain. From Infowars.com, retired Lieutenant Colonel Tony Schaefer, Obama is arming ISIS to fight ISIS. From RT, ISIS, US-made monster running amok in the Middle East. BelfastTelegraph.co.uk, how the West bankrolls ISIS, millions from governments and NGOs funding radical Islamic terror group. Press TV, Rand Paul, US arming ISIS terrorists. And I made a mistake the other day. Another DJ in Sydney, nice guy, I won't mention his name, made a post about how he was telling someone that anyone who supports ISIS is a terrorist. And so I went on his Facebook, on this comment thread, which had, a whole bunch of hundreds of likes, and made comments saying, so you say that anyone who supports ISIS is just as bad as a terrorist. Then I posted about 20 different articles proving that the United States supports ISIS militarily, financially, with intelligence. And despite showing all of that documentation, they wouldn't believe it. And everyone else, there were a couple of people who agreed with me, but a lot of people were really not wanting to hear what I had to say. It's because people don't want to do any research for themselves. It's because people would rather someone else fight the battle for them instead of having to stand up and fight against the government. Because when you fight up against the government, it's a lot more difficult. It's a lot more difficult. I shouldn't have gotten into an argument with him because I know how much of a waste of time getting into Facebook arguments is. But this guy, I've met him, he's a cool guy. And he seems smart enough. And I tried over and over again to show him that the US funds ISIS. But no, he's buying hook, line and sinker. And a lot of people are in the same boat. So I'm not criticizing anyone personally, but it saddens me to see people falling for this propaganda in this Hitlerian way. Another article from Press TV, the United States' biggest allies are funding ISIL. And the real reason why they're hyping this terror threat so much, see, so many things have happened recently. These raids in Sydney, these people driving past this school, raising the terror threat level, raids in Brisbane, all of these things, Australia sending troops to Iraq, all of this has happened within the last week. The government is really hyping a terrorist attack in Australia. And I would not be surprised at all if they pull a false flag attack so they can crack down even more. And you know what? If that were to happen, if an attack were to happen in Sydney and it was clear that it was a false flag attack, most people wouldn't even care that it was a false flag attack. They would be begging the government to crack down on all these Muslims, and a lot of them would be begging for them to get locked up and put away in camps. But I'm calling out to the people who are smarter than that. I'm calling out to the people who have some intelligence, who have some humanity, who have the ability to think critically. Look around you and you're going to see people who are going off the rails and falling for this propaganda. And as someone who's watching this, as someone who understands this situation, I'm being serious when I say it's your responsibility to educate people on the truth, despite the resistance and the ridicule and the hatred that you're going to cop from them. Because if you don't do anything, then we're in trouble. But I'm going to keep fighting. Please join me in the fight for freedom. And this is why they want you to be so scared. Because Tony Abbott, military action against ISIS will cost $500 million a year. $500 million a year of the money you earn, your tax money, going to fight someone that's getting funded by the United States. It makes absolutely no sense. So they want you to be scared, so you keep funding these wars with your tax dollars, and you keep supporting having your civil liberties taken away. This article from the CanberraTimes.com.au. George Brandis' new anti-terror laws allows ASIO to torture. It is not clear why the Attorney General George Brandis believes it is necessary for the Australian government to have the latitude to resort to torture, but you could drive a truck through his National Security Legislation Amendment Bill and not hit anything that says, "Do not torture people." I've spoken to 2 legal experts and 1 outraged senator about this bill, and it is obvious that allowing torture by government security agents lies within the scope of the draft law. Read it for yourself. Under the heading Immunity from Liability, Section 35K of the Draft National Security Legislation Amendment Bill No. 1, 2014 bill states, a participant in a special intelligence operation is not subject to any civil or criminal liability for or in relation to conduct if the conduct does not involve the participant engaging in any conduct that causes the death of or serious injury to any person, or involves the commission of a sexual offence against any person, or causes significant loss of or serious damages to property. You don't need the advice of a QC to work out that this provision states that it is unlawful to kill people, cause serious injury, sexually abuse or cause serious damage to a person's property, but deliberately leaves about 150 shades of grey, ranging from ethical ambiguity to outright black ops. So this is another thing. The fact that they're hyping all these terroristic threats means that people are going to willingly give away their liberty, give away their freedom, give away their sovereignty in order to be protected. I've been doing the Revolutionary Nightly News for a few months now and become more involved in researching this more and more, and this is really hitting close to home. They are really hyping a massive terroristic threat in Sydney, and I really don't want something to go down, but that looks like that's what they're planning. I really call upon you to look through the lies, to look through the fact that people are trying to deceive you, trying to get you to hate one another, trying to get you to support wars that kill millions, trying to get you to support laws that take away your freedoms. Please be smarter than that. I'm telling you, the world is at a crossroads right now. And if good people like you and I don't stand up and speak out, then it may be too late. But I do have faith in the human race. I know I usually have so much energy when I'm doing this news, and I've felt myself being more somber tonight. But I'm still here. I'm still in the fight. I will not give up. And I appreciate your support, the people who are with me. Honestly, we are facing the greatest threat humanity has ever faced, and that is an all-encompassing government with control over the media, control over people's minds, control over people's money, and control over all of the weapons. It's going to take a lot to defeat them. But I have faith in you. I have faith in the human race. Spread this message. Help people to understand that the government funds both sides of the war. Help people to understand that the government is the real enemy. Don't let history repeat itself. The revolution is here. Woo!